He had a one-night stand with a struggling girl desperate to save her mother. 10 years later, he crosses paths with a boy, unaware the boy is his son. Picture this. A man in a $1,000 suit stands frozen in front of a child's painting at an elementary school art show. His hands are shaking. The painting shows a dragon breathing light, not fire, but actual protective light, over a small figure. And beneath it, a placard that reads, Jonah Hart, age 9. The boy appears beside him, all messy black hair and paint-stained fingers. You like it? The kid asks, grinning with this crooked smile that makes the man's stomach drop. Yes, the man stammers. Carter Westbrook doesn't stammer. He negotiates billion-dollar mergers. He addresses boardrooms full of sharks. But right now, looking at this 9-year-old, he can barely breathe. Who taught you to paint like this? My mom, mostly. But I kind of just feel it, you know. Jonah tilts his head, studying the man with unsettling focus. Dragons don't need to breathe fire. Fire destroys things. Light protects them. That's what my mom says. We're supposed to protect people, not burn them. Carter's throat goes tight. Behind the refreshment table, a woman with dark hair is laughing at something, wiping down paper plates. She turns, and the laugh dies on her lips the moment she sees him. 10 years collapse into seconds. Maya, he breathes. Her face goes pale. The plates slip from her hands, clattering against the table. Jonah, she says, voice barely steady. Sweetheart, why don't you go show Mrs. Patterson your dragon series? But, Mom. Now, baby. Please. The boy looks between them, confused, but he goes. Smart kid. Reads the room better than most adults. Maya walks toward Carter like she's approaching a cliff edge. When she's close enough that he can smell the faint scent of lavender and paint thinner, she stops. What are you doing here? She whispers. I could ask you the same thing. His eyes dart toward where Jonah disappeared into the crowd. Maya, that boy. Don't. He has my. I said don't. Her voice cracks like ice. Not here. Not now. How old is he? She closes her eyes. When she opens them, they're glistening. You know how old he is, Carter. You've always been good with numbers. The gymnasium feels too small, too bright, too full of paper lanterns and children's laughter and the weight of a secret that just detonated in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. We need to talk, he says. It's been 10 years. We needed to talk 10 years ago. Then let's talk now. She looks at him, really looks at him, and something in her face shifts. Resignation, maybe. Or exhaustion. Yeah, she says softly. I guess we do. Okay, listen. Before I tell you the whole story, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this entire story, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment right now and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is. Seriously. I want to know. And I'm going to be in the comments interacting with you because of this story. This one hits differently. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now. This is Dr. Mason Long Stories, where we tell stories that have heart, that have truth, and that remind you why being human is both the hardest and most beautiful thing we'll ever do. Don't miss a single story. Subscribe, and let's get back to Maya, Carter, and the son he never knew existed. Maya Hart's mother liked to leave notes in unexpected places. Tucked into the sugar jar, sweeten your day. Slipped under Maya's pillow, dream bigger than your fear. Taped to the bathroom mirror, keep making light. That last one, keep making light. Maya found the morning after her mother's diagnosis, and she'd folded it into her sketchbook like a prayer. Stage 3. Aggressive. The oncologist had used words like urgent intervention and narrow window, and, unfortunately, insurance doesn't typically cover. Maya had stopped listening after that. The numbers were the only language that mattered now. $47,000 for the treatment. $8,200 in her savings account. 3 weeks until the appeals hearing. 6 months, maybe less, if they did nothing. She'd tried everything. Called every charity, every foundation, every religious organization within a 50-mile radius. She'd set up a GoFundMe that raised $3,400 from friends who were just as broke as she was. She'd sold her camera equipment, her laptop, her grandmother's ring. It wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. That's when her friend Vanessa mentioned the party. "I'm not saying it's a good idea," Vanessa had said, stirring her coffee with a kind of aggressive nonchalance that meant she absolutely thought it was a good idea. "I'm just saying that rich men with guilty consciences show up to these things, and sometimes they're generous. You want me to be an escort. I want you to have a conversation with someone who can write a check without checking their bank balance first." Vanessa leaned forward. "Maya, your mom is dying. I'm not telling you to do anything you're not comfortable with. But I am telling you that pride is expensive, and right now, you can't afford it." So that's how Maya ended up pushing through the revolving door of the Marlowe Hotel on a Thursday evening, wearing a borrowed dress and shoes that pinched her toes, carrying a purse full of hospital bills like evidence at a trial. The lobby made her feel small. Marble floors, chandelier dripping crystal, people who moved through the space like they owned the air itself. Suite 1502. Vanessa had written the number on a napkin with a lipstick-blurred lip print next to it. "His name is Carter Westbrook. He's a venture capitalist. Be honest. Be yourself. And Maya, don't apologize for needing help." Maya knocked. The man who answered the door wasn't what she expected. She'd pictured someone older, softer around the middle, with the kind of smugness that comes from never being told no. Carter Westbrook was maybe 35, lean, with dark hair and eyes that looked tired in a way money couldn't fix. His suit probably cost more than her rent, but he wore it like armor, not decoration. "You must be Maya," he said. His voice was quiet. "Careful. And you're Carter. Come in, please." The suite was ridiculous. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum, a bottle of wine on the table that probably cost more than her car. "Can I get you something to drink?" he asked. "No, thank you." She set her purse down on the glass coffee table and immediately regretted it. It looked shabby next to all this wealth, this casual abundance. "I appreciate you agreeing to meet with me. Vanessa said you needed help." He sat down across from her, elbows on his knees, hands folded. "She didn't say with what." Maya took a breath. Then another. Then she opened her purse and pulled out the folder. "My mother has cancer. Stage 3. She needs treatment that costs more than I can make in 2 years, and insurance won't cover it. The hospital has her on a waiting list for an appeals hearing, but she doesn't have time to wait." She spread the documents across the table. Medical reports, billing statements, denial letters stamped with cold corporate efficiency. "I've tried everything else. Every legitimate option. Every fundraiser, every payment plan. I'm not here because I want to be. I'm here because I'm out of choices." Carter picked up one of the reports, scanned it with the focus of someone used to reading contracts. His jaw tightened. "Dr. Simonson," he said. "He's one of the best oncologists in the state. He's also $22,000 just for the consultation. What's your mother's name?" And Hart." He set the report down and looked at her. Really looked, like he was trying to see past the borrowed dress and the desperation. "You don't need to be here," he said. Maya blinked. "I'm sorry. I'll make the calls tonight. I know people at Simonson's office. I can have your mother moved to the front of the list, and I can cover the costs. All of them." For a moment, Maya forgot how to breathe. Relief hit her like sunlight breaking through storm clouds, so sudden and bright it almost hurt. I don't understand. Why would you?" "Because I can." He said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Money is just a tool. If I can use it to save someone's life, why wouldn't I?" Maya felt tears burning at the back of her eyes. "I can't possibly pay you back. I'm not asking you to." "Then what are you asking?" The silence stretched between them, delicate and dangerous. Carter stood, walked to the window, looked out at the glittering city below. When he spoke, his voice was quieter. I don't want your money, Maya. I don't need it. He turned back to face her. But I am lonely. Profoundly lonely. And I haven't been able to fix that with all the resources in the world. Understanding came slowly, then all at once. You want me to stay, she said. One night. That's all. No obligations after. No strings. He held up his hands like he was proving they were empty. In the morning, I'll transfer the funds for your mother's treatment. You'll never have to see me again if you don't want to. Maya's mind was racing. This was insane. This was a terrible idea. This was... Your mother is dying. Vanessa's voice in her head. Pride is expensive. And her mother's note, creased and soft from being folded and unfolded so many times. Keep making light. If I say no, Maya asked, then I'll still make the calls. I'll still cover the costs. Carter's expression was unreadable. But I'm hoping you'll say yes. She thought about all the ways the world had already taken from her. Her father, who'd left when she was 12. Her scholarship, lost when she'd had to drop out to care for her mother. Her dreams of being a real photographer, shelved next to all the other things poverty had stolen. The world had taken and taken and taken. Maybe it was time to take something back. Okay, she said. One night. They didn't rush. Carter ordered room service. Pasta that tasted like it had been blessed by Italian grandmothers, wine that was smooth and probably obscenely expensive. They sat on the terrace, rain starting to fall in soft whispers against the stone. Tell me about your photography, he said. Maya hadn't expected conversation. She'd expected... Well, she didn't know what she'd expected. But not this. Not genuine curiosity. I mostly do portraits, she said. Or I used to. Before I had to sell my equipment. What kind of portraits? People who don't usually get photographed. Homeless veterans. Street performers. Single mothers working 3 jobs. She smiled slightly. People who deserve to be seen. That's good work. It doesn't pay the bills. The best work usually doesn't. They talked for 2 hours. About art and loneliness and the weight of expectations. Carter told her about his father, a self-made man who'd built an empire and then resented his son for inheriting it too easily. Maya told him about her mother's notes, about learning to find light in small places. When they finally moved inside, when clothes became optional and touch became language, it was tender in a way Maya hadn't anticipated. Carter kissed her like she was something precious, not purchased. He learned the map of her body with careful attention. And when she gasped against his shoulder, when pleasure erased everything else for those brief, perfect moments, she forgot about bargains and bills and everything except the warmth of another human being choosing gentleness. Afterward, he held her. That was the part that surprised her most. The holding. Thank you, he whispered against her hair. For what? For being here. For being real. She fell asleep listening to the rain and his heartbeat, and for those few hours, the world felt almost manageable. In the morning, there was a check on the nightstand. $50,000. No name printed, just his signature, swift and precise. Carter was already awake, dressed in fresh clothes, on the phone with someone about moving appointments and arranging specialists. When he hung up, he turned to her with something like regret in his eyes. Dr. Simonson will see your mother tomorrow at 10. I've arranged for a full treatment plan, and the hospital has been instructed to bill my office directly. Maya picked up the check with trembling fingers. Carter, this is... It's done. It's handled. He crossed to her, tilted her chin up gently. Your mother is going to get the best care available. You don't have to worry anymore. I don't know how to thank you. You already did. He kissed her forehead, chaste, almost brotherly, and then he was gathering his things, checking his watch, becoming the busy man who had a world to run. Will I see you again? Maya asked, hating how small her voice sounded. Carter paused at the door. Do you want to? Honestly? She didn't know. This whole thing felt surreal, Like a fever dream she'd wake up from to find herself back in the hospital waiting room, drowning in debt. "I don't know," she admitted. He smiled sadly. "That's fair. If you ever need anything, Vanessa knows how to reach me." And then he was gone. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, check in one hand, the weight of the night in the other, and wondered what the hell she'd just done. Her mother's treatment started within 48 hours. Dr. Simonson was a brisk, efficient man who spoke in percentages and protocols. Aggressive chemotherapy, followed by radiation. If we're lucky, surgery to remove what's left. It's going to be rough, but you're strong. We can do this. Her mother, pale but smiling, squeezed Maya's hand. "See? I told you the universe provides." Maya didn't tell her about Carter. Didn't tell her about the hotel or the bargain or the check that had saved her life. Some stories were too complicated for deathbeds and hope. The months that followed were a blur of hospital visits and nausea and small victories measured in blood counts and tumor sizes. Her mother lost her hair and 20 pounds and her ability to keep down solid food, but she didn't lose her humor. "I always wanted to try the pixie cut," she joked, modeling a wig that made her look like a punk rock grandmother. Maya laughed until she cried, and then just cried. But the treatment was working. Slowly, painfully, but working. And then, 2 months after that night at the Marlowe, Maya's period didn't come. She waited a week. Then another. Then she bought 3 different pregnancy tests from 3 different pharmacies because surely this wasn't happening. 2 lines. Every single time. 2 lines. She sat on the bathroom floor, forehead pressed against the cool tile, and felt her life rearrange itself into something unrecognizable. A baby. Carter's baby. A child born from a single night that was supposed to be a closed chapter, a footnote, a transaction. She thought about calling him. She even pulled up Vanessa's number twice. But what would she say? "Hey, remember that night you paid me to sleep with you? Well, surprise. You're going to be a father." No. Absolutely not. Carter had given her mother a chance at life. Maya wouldn't repay that by trapping him with an obligation he'd never asked for. He'd been clear. One night, no strings. She'd handle this on her own. She'd handled everything else on her own. What was one more impossible thing? Maya moved upstate 3 weeks later. A small town called Millbrook, where rent was cheap and neighbors still waved from their porches. She transferred her mother's care to a local hospital, found a modest apartment above a bakery that always smelled like cinnamon, and took freelance photography jobs that she could do from home. She told everyone she met the same simple story. Single mother, fresh start, no drama. Most people didn't pry. Small towns had their own problems. They didn't need to borrow anyone else's. The pregnancy was easy until it wasn't. Morning sickness that lasted all day. Swollen ankles. Heartburn that made sleep impossible. But Maya documented every moment with her rebuilt camera. Bump photos and cravings and the way her body became a home for someone else. When labor started on a rainy October night, her mother held her hand and whispered, "You're going to be amazing at this." At what? Screaming. At loving someone more than you love yourself. 17 hours later, Jonah came into the world with a full head of dark hair and a crooked little smile that made Maya's heart stop. "He looks like you," her mother said softly. But Maya saw it immediately. The small dimple, the particular shape of his mouth. He looked like Carter. Not completely, not enough that anyone else would notice. But enough that she knew. Enough that she'd always know. "Hi, baby," she whispered, touching his impossibly tiny hand. "I'm your mom. And I promise, I'm going to give you the best life I possibly can." Jonah yawned, utterly unimpressed, and Maya fell in love for the second time in her life. Jonah was an easy baby, which Maya took as proof that the universe occasionally balanced its books. He slept through the night at 6 weeks. He laughed at everything. Ceiling fans, her terrible singing, the neighbor's dog who barked at leaves. And he loved color. Even before he could hold a crayon, he'd stare at Maya's paintings with an intensity that seemed absurd for someone who still drooled on himself. "He's going to be an artist," her mother predicted when Jonah was 18 months old, watching him smear sweet potato across his high chair tray in something that almost resembled a pattern. "He's going to be a mess," Maya countered, wiping orange goop out of his hair. But her mother was right. By age 3, Jonah was drawing constantly. Not the typical stick figures or wobbly houses, actual compositions. His favorite subject, dragons. "Why dragons?" Maya asked him once, watching him color a purple dragon with what appeared to be flower petals for scales. "Because they're strong," Jonah said, not looking up from his work. "And they protect people." "Don't dragons usually burn people?" He looked at her like she'd said the sky was green. "Not my dragons. My dragons breathe light. Fire is mean. Light keeps you safe." Maya didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Her 3-year-old had somehow internalized her entire life philosophy and turned it into mythical reptiles. "Where'd you get so smart?" she asked, kissing the top of his head. "From you, Mama." "Duh." When Jonah was 4, he announced that dragons were vegetarians. "They only breathe fire to cook their broccoli," he explained with complete seriousness. "Because raw broccoli is yucky, but roasted broccoli is delicious. Grandma said so." Maya's mother, who was 5 years into remission and looked healthier than she had in a decade, grinned from the kitchen. "Don't drag me into your dragon nutrition debates, kiddo." "But it's true." "Of course it is, sweetheart." Jonah's kindergarten teacher called Maya in for a conference when he was 5. "Is everything okay?" Maya asked, mentally preparing herself for reports of biting or crayon eating or whatever catastrophe 5-year-olds typically committed. "Everything is wonderful," Mrs. Chin said. "Jonah is extraordinary. His art is years beyond his age group. I wanted to ask if you'd allow us to submit some of his work to the county's Young Artist Showcase." Maya blinked. "The showcase for elementary schoolers?" "I know he's technically too young, but I truly believe they'd make an exception." They did. Jonah's painting, a dragon curled protectively around a sleeping child, breathing soft golden light, won second place. The local newspaper ran a photo of him holding his ribbon, grinning with 2 missing front teeth. "I'm famous," he announced, taping the article to the refrigerator. "You're 5, Maya reminded him. "Famous and 5. I can multitask." By age 6, Jonah's dragons had evolved. They weren't just protecting people anymore, they were protecting ideas. Hope, love, second chances. He painted a series called Light Keepers, where each dragon guarded something intangible. A dragon breathing light over a broken heart, mending it. A dragon breathing light over dark clouds, clearing them. A dragon breathing light over a small figure that looked suspiciously like Maya, painting. "Is that me?" she asked. "Yeah. You need protecting too, Mama. You're always taking care of me and Grandma. My dragon takes care of you." She had to leave the room to cry. At 7, Jonah started asking questions. "Why don't I have a dad?" Maya had been expecting this for years, but it still hit like a punch to the chest. They were sitting at the kitchen table, Jonah working on homework, Maya editing photos on her laptop. "You do have a dad," she said carefully. "Everyone has a dad. He just doesn't live with us." "Why not?" "It's complicated, baby." "Is he dead?" "No." "Did he do something bad?" "No." "Nothing like that." Jonah chewed on his pencil, processing. "Does he know about me?" Maya's throat went tight. "No, sweetheart. He doesn't." "Why not?" How do you explain to a 7-year-old that sometimes adults make choices that seem right at the time but create complicated ripples that last for years? That sometimes protection looks like secrets, and sometimes love means carrying the weight of truth alone? "Because I wanted you to be just yours and mine for a while," Maya said softly. "I wanted you to know that you're loved and wanted and special, not because of who your dad is, but because of who you are." Jonah thought about this for a long moment. Then, "Okay. Can I have a snack?" And just like that, the conversation was over. Until it wasn't. At 8, Jonah painted a series called The Missing Piece. Each painting showed a complete image with one section in shadow, one part unclear. A family with one figure blurred. A bridge with one support beam faded. A dragon with one wing translucent. His teacher showed Maya the collection with concerned eyes. I think he's processing something. Might be worth talking to him. Maya tried. Honey, your new paintings are beautiful, but they seem sad. Do you want to talk about what you're feeling? Jonah shrugged. I'm not sad. I'm just wondering what the missing pieces look like. Like, what would the full picture be? I think about it sometimes. The missing piece of everything, I guess. Our family. My stuff. You know. Yeah, she knew. At 9, Jonah stopped asking questions and started making statements. I think my dad would like dragons. I bet I look like my dad. I don't really look like you. Do you think my dad knows how to paint? And finally, the one that broke her, do you think my dad would love me if he met me? Oh, baby. Maya pulled him into her lap, even though he was getting too big for it, and held him tight. Any person who met you would love you. You're extraordinary. But would he? Yes, she whispered into his hair. I think he would love you so much. It was the truth. Carter had been kind, lonely, unexpectedly gentle. If he knew about Jonah, if he could see this brilliant, compassionate, dragon-painting boy, he'd be devastated that he'd missed 9 years. But telling him would mean exposing Jonah to scrutiny, to questions, to the possibility of rejection or custody battles or a world that would see him as the product of a transaction rather than a miracle. So Maya kept the secret, folded tight in her chest next to all her other small acts of courage, and hoped she was making the right choice. The elementary school art show announcement arrived on a Tuesday in April. Maya was editing photos when Jonah burst through the door, waving a permission slip like a flag. Mom. My dragons got picked. They're doing a showcase and Mr. Rivera picked my Lightkeeper series and I need you to sign this. Slow down, baby. What showcase? The Spring Community Art Show. It's a huge deal. They only pick like 20 kids from the whole district and I'm one of them. Maya read the permission slip. The show was in 2 weeks, open to the public, featuring exceptional young talent from our community. Pride swelled in her chest. Jonah, this is amazing. I'm so proud of you. Will you help me set up? And can Grandma come? And can we get fancy cookies for the reception? Yes, and absolutely yes. Jonah whooped and ran to his room to start planning, leaving Maya sitting at the kitchen table with a smile on her face and absolutely no idea that in 2 weeks, her carefully constructed world was going to implode. Carter Westbrook didn't believe in fate, divine intervention, or any of the spiritual concepts his assistant kept trying to introduce him to through strategically placed self-help books. He believed in data, calculated risks, and the measurable impact of capital investment. So when Rebecca, his director of community outreach, suggested he attend an elementary school art show in some small town he'd never heard of, his first instinct was to decline. You need more local presence, Rebecca insisted, following him through his office like a particularly determined terrier. The foundation's donor base is getting older. We need to connect with younger families, show that we're invested in community-level programs, not just writing checks to big institutions. We write checks to big institutions because they have the infrastructure to actually implement change. We write checks to big institutions because it's easy and looks good in press releases. This, she waved the flyer, this is real. Local kids, real talent, actual community investment. It's one Saturday afternoon, Carter. 3 hours, max. He'd agreed mostly to stop the conversation. The drive to Millbrook took 2 hours through increasingly rural landscapes that made Carter's city-trained brain itch with discomfort. Too much space. Too much quiet. Too many people waving at his car like they knew him. This is a PR opportunity, Rebecca reminded him as they pulled into the elementary school parking lot. Smile, ask about their artwork, take photos with the kids if parents ask. Show them you're human. I am human. You know what I mean. The gymnasium smelled like industrial cleaner and poster paint. Children's artwork covered every available wall space, a riot of color and enthusiasm that made up in energy what it lacked in technical skill. Carter moved through the crowd with practiced ease, shaking hands with parents, nodding at teachers, pretending to be fascinated by finger paintings of houses and cats and incomprehensible blobs labeled, "My Family." And then he turned a corner and stopped breathing. The painting was small, maybe 12 by 16 inches, but it commanded the wall like it was 10 feet tall. A dragon, rendered in layered watercolors that created depth and light he'd never seen in children's artwork, breathed not fire but luminous golden beams over a tiny figure. The light looked warm, protective, almost tangible. The technique was sophisticated. The emotion was profound. The placard read, "Lightkeeper, Protection by Jonah Hart, age 9. Carter stared at it for a full minute, his brain trying to process why this piece felt significant beyond its obvious technical merit. Then he moved to the next painting. Same artist. A dragon breathing light over a broken heart, the cracks visibly mending in the glow. Another, a dragon breathing light over storm clouds, clearing them into blue sky. Each piece told a story. Each piece chose hope over destruction. Each piece felt eerily, impossibly familiar. They're something, aren't they? Carter turned to find a woman in her 60s smiling at him, wearing a volunteer badge. "They're extraordinary," he said. "This Jonah Hart, is he here?" "Oh, sure. He's around somewhere with his mother. Sweet boy. Talented beyond his years. His teacher says he's the most naturally gifted student she's seen in 20 years of teaching. His mother is a painter too?" "Photographer, mostly. Maya Hart. Lovely woman. Single mom, works incredibly hard. They're good people. Single mom. Maya Hart." The name hit him like a physical thing. No. It couldn't be. Maya was a common name. Hart wasn't exactly unusual. This was coincidence, pattern recognition, his brain making connections that didn't exist. But then he saw the next painting. A woman bent over an easel, dark hair falling across her face, one hand holding a brush mid-stroke. The perspective was intimate, loving, the way a child sees a parent in their element. The figure's posture, the angle of her shoulders, the specific way her hair curved. Carter's mouth went dry. "Excuse me," he said to the volunteer, already moving through the crowd with purpose now, scanning faces, looking for At the refreshment table, wiping down surfaces with efficient motions, dark hair shorter than he remembered but the profile unmistakable even after 10 years. Maya. And beside her, talking animatedly while gesturing at something on his phone, a boy with a shock of black hair and a smile that Carter recognized because he'd seen it in his own childhood photos 1,000 times. The crooked smile. The dimple. The way he tilted his head when he was thinking. The room tilted. 9 years old. 10 years since that night at the Marlowe. The math was painfully simple. Carter crossed the gymnasium floor like a man in a dream, or possibly a nightmare, every step feeling both too fast and not fast enough. The boy saw him first, looked up with curious dark eyes. "Hi," he said with the fearless friendliness of children who haven't learned to be suspicious yet. "Do you like the art show?" Yes." Carter's voice sounded strange to his own ears. "Very much. Especially the Dragon series." "Oh, those are mine." Pure delight spread across Jonah's face. "I'm Jonah Hart. I painted all the Lightkeeper dragons. They're incredible." "Who taught you?" "My mom mostly, but also I just kind of feel it. Like, dragons don't need to breathe fire. That's so boring and also really destructive. Fire burns things. But light," his whole face lit up, "light protects things. It helps them grow. It keeps them safe." Every word out of his mouth felt like a small detonation in Carter's chest. Maya had gone very, very still. She was staring at Carter with an expression that cycled rapidly through shock, fear, and something that might have been resignation. "Jonah," she said quietly. Too quietly. "Sweetheart, why don't you go help Mrs. Patterson bring out more cups from the supply closet?" "But Mom," I'm talking about my dragons. Now, baby. Please. The boy's enthusiasm dimmed. He looked between them, and Carter watched comprehension dawn in those two intelligent eyes, the understanding that something adult and complicated was happening. Okay, Jonah said slowly. He grabbed a stack of napkins and headed toward the back of the gymnasium, glancing back twice. Maya waited until he was out of earshot. Then she walked toward Carter, each step deliberate, until she was close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her brown eyes, the paint stain on her wrist, the way her hands were shaking slightly. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. "I could ask you the same thing." His eyes tracked to where Jonah had disappeared. "Maya, that boy. Don't. He has my face. He has my—" "I said don't. Not here. Not now." "How old is he?" She closed her eyes like she could make this moment disappear. When she opened them, they were bright with unshed tears. "You know how old he is, Carter. You've always been good with numbers." The confirmation hit him even though he'd already known. Knowing and hearing it were different countries. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you find me?" she shot back. "I tried. 4 months I tried. I called Vanessa. I hired investigators. You disappeared. Completely. No forwarding address, no phone number, nothing. It was like you'd been erased. That was the point." Her voice cracked. "I gave you what you asked for. One night, no strings. I wasn't going to trap you with a consequence you didn't sign up for." "A consequence? Maya, that's my son. That's my son." Fire flashed in her eyes now. "I'm the one who carried him. I'm the one who raised him. I'm the one who's been there for every skinned knee and nightmare and parent-teacher conference. You don't get to walk in here after 10 years and claim him like he's a stock portfolio." Carter felt like he'd been slapped. "That's not what I—" "Mr. Westbrook." Rebecca appeared at his elbow with aggressive cheerfulness and spectacularly bad timing. "The principal would love a photo opportunity with you and some of the young artists." "Would you?" "Oh." She registered the tension. "Should I come back?" "Yes," Maya said. "No," Carter said simultaneously. They stared at each other. "Give us a minute," Carter told Rebecca. She fled. Maya wrapped her arms around herself. "You need to leave." "Not until we talk. Really talk." "There's nothing to talk about. There's a 9-year-old boy who looks exactly like me that I knew nothing about. There's everything to talk about. He's happy, Carter. He's healthy and loved and happy. Don't complicate his life because of your guilt or your ego or whatever this is. This is me finding out I have a son." His voice rose and several people turned to look. He lowered it to a harsh whisper. "This is me realizing I've missed 9 years of his life. 9 birthdays. First steps. First words. Everything. And whose fault is that? Yours. You're the one who disappeared. You're the one who made our night a transaction." They were both breathing hard now, years of words unspoken filling the space between them like smoke. Jonah reappeared with Mrs. Patterson, carrying a box of plastic cups. He looked at them with worried eyes. "Mama? Are you okay?" Maya's expression transformed instantly, all the anger smoothing into reassurance. "I'm fine, baby. Mr. Westbrook was just leaving." "Actually," Carter said, looking at Jonah, seeing his son, for the first time and knowing he couldn't walk away, "I was hoping you might show me your other paintings. If that's okay with your mother." Jonah looked at Maya. "Can he, Mom? Please. I want to show him the whole Lightkeeper series and explain the symbolism." The kid said symbolism like it was a normal word for 9-year-olds to use. Maya looked trapped. "Jonah. Please?" He's the first adult who actually asked questions about the technique instead of just saying, "Oh, how nice." She closed her eyes, opened them, looked at Carter with an expression that clearly said, "If you hurt my son, I will end you." 15 minutes, she said. "Then we're leaving." Jonah whooped and grabbed Carter's hand. Just grabbed it, like it was the most natural thing in the world, and pulled him toward the display wall. Carter looked down at the small hand in his and felt something crack open in his chest that he hadn't known was closed. Listen, I need to pause here because this next part is important. If you're still with me, if this story is hitting you in the heart like I think it is, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right now. And down in the comments, I want you to tell me, Team Maya or Team Carter? Who do you think is right here? Is Maya protecting her son, or is she keeping Carter from something he deserves to know about? Real talk. And if you know someone who's been through something complicated like this, blended families, second chances, messy beautiful life stuff, share this video with them. Sometimes we all need to be reminded that we're not alone in the struggle. Now let's see what happens when Jonah shows his dad, who doesn't know he's his dad, the paintings he's been creating his whole life. Jonah talked non-stop for 14 minutes. He explained how he layered the watercolors to create luminosity, how he chose specific colors for specific emotions, how each dragon had a personality, a purpose, a story. This one, he pointed to a dragon breathing light over a figure that was clearly Maya, is the guardian. It protects creative people while they work. Because artists are vulnerable when they're making stuff, you know? They're putting their hearts out there. So they need dragons. That's profound, Carter said, and meant it. Thanks. My mom says making art is an act of courage. So I made art about protecting courage. He grinned. Meta, right? Did you just use meta correctly? I read a lot. Carter laughed despite everything. I can tell. Jonah, these are genuinely exceptional. Have you thought about art school? There are some amazing programs for young artists. Carter. Maya's voice cut through the conversation like a blade. She'd appeared beside them silently. Time's up. Mom, 5 more minutes, please. Now, Jonah. The boy's face fell. But... Listen to your mother, Carter said gently, even though it killed him to say it. He crouched down to Jonah's eye level. Thank you for showing me your work. You have a real gift. Will you come to my next show? It's in June. We're doing a whole exhibit at the community center. Carter looked up at Maya. Her expression was unreadable. I'd like that, he said carefully. If your mother says it's okay. Jonah turned pleading eyes on Maya. Can he, Mom? Please. She looked like she wanted to say no. Like she wanted to grab Jonah and run and never look back. But she looked at her son's hopeful face and sighed. We'll see, she said, which every parent knows is not a yes but isn't quite a no. Jonah accepted this with the wisdom of a child who knows when to quit while he's ahead. Okay. Come on, Mama. Grandma's waiting in the car and she said we could get ice cream if I didn't spill anything on my good shirt, and I didn't. So we have to go now before she forgets. He hugged Carter suddenly, impulsively, and then ran off toward the exit, leaving Carter and Maya alone again. We need to talk, Carter said. Really talk. Not here, not like this, but soon. Why? What's there to say? Maya, he's my son. Legally, he's not. You're not on the birth certificate. You have no parental rights. You're a stranger who happened to be in the same room for 15 minutes. The words were harsh, but her voice shook. Is that really what you want? Carter asked quietly. For me to be a stranger to him? Forever. She looked away. I don't know what I want. I've spent 9 years building a life for him. A good life. I don't know how you fit into that. Let me try. Please. Let me get to know him. And if he gets attached and you decide this is too complicated and you disappear? What then? I'm not letting you break his heart. I would never. You don't know that. You don't know what it's like to be a parent. It's not a hobby you can quit when it gets hard. It's forever. It's everything. Then teach me, Carter said. I want to learn. I want to be there. His voice cracked. I want to know my son. Maya's eyes filled with tears. This is going to get so complicated. I know. He's going to have questions. I know. The whole town is going to have opinions. I know. Carter, I can't. She pressed her hands to her face. I can't let you hurt him. I can't. I won't. I swear to you, Maya, I won't. She lowered her hands and looked at him with a decade of exhaustion in her eyes. Okay, she whispered. Okay. But we do this my way. Slow. Careful. And the second, it becomes harmful to Jonah, you step back. Agreed. Agreed. I mean it, Carter. He comes first. Before your guilt, before my anger, before everything. Jonah comes first. I wouldn't want it any other way. She pulled a pen from her purse and grabbed a napkin from the refreshment table, scribbled a phone number. Call me tomorrow. We'll figure out something. She walked away before he could respond, disappearing through the gymnasium doors and leaving Carter standing alone surrounded by children's artwork and the ruins of his carefully organized life. Rebecca found him 10 minutes later, still staring at Jonah's dragons. So, she said carefully. That seemed intense. I have a son. I'm sorry, what? That boy. Jonah Hart. He's my son. Rebecca's eyes went wide. Holy shit. Yeah. Does he know? No. Does the mother, Maya, does she? She knows. She's known for 9 years. She never told me. Okay. Okay. Rebecca was in crisis management mode now. We need to be smart about this. If this gets out, if the press. I don't care about the press. Carter, you need to care. This could be messy. The optics of a wealthy businessman and Don't. His voice went cold. Don't finish that sentence. She held up her hands. I'm just saying we need to be strategic. The only strategy one care about is getting to know my son without traumatizing him. Everything else is noise. He walked out of the school, got in his car, and sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes trying to remember how to breathe normally. A son. He had a son. A 9-year-old boy who painted dragons that breathed light instead of fire because he believed in protection over destruction. A boy who looked like Carter and talked like Maya and existed in the world as proof that one night could change everything. Carter pulled out his phone and looked at the napkin with Maya's number. Tomorrow, he'd call. Tomorrow, his life would change again. Tonight, he just sat in his car and tried to process the fact that he was a father. The first phone call was awkward. Hi. Hi. Silence. So, Carter said. So, Maya echoed. More silence. This is weird, Jonah's voice suddenly piped up in the background. Mom, why are you being weird on the phone? I'm not being weird, baby. Go brush your teeth. It's 2 in the afternoon. Then go. Organize your art supplies. They're already organized by color, medium, and frequency of use. Then go reorganize them by size. Footsteps retreating. A door closing. Maya sighed. Sorry. He's everywhere. Always. He seems amazing. He is. Most of the time. Also occasionally infuriating, but mostly amazing. She paused. Carter, I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. I've been the only parent for 9 years. I don't know how to suddenly add another person to the equation. What if we start small? Coffee. Just us. We talk, we figure out boundaries, we make a plan. I can do coffee. They met at a diner halfway between Millbrook and the city. Neutral territory. Maya ordered tea. Carter ordered coffee. Neither of them touched their drinks. I'm not trying to take him from you, Carter said. I know. I think I know. But I'm terrified anyway. Of what? Of you deciding you want custody. Of lawyers and courts and Jonah being traumatized. Of him choosing you over me because you can give him things I can't. She wrapped her hands around her mug. Of him getting hurt. I don't want to hurt him. Or you. But you might. Not on purpose, but this is complicated and messy and— She looked up at him. What do you even want, Carter? Really? He'd been asking himself that question for 3 days. I want to know him. I want to be part of his life. I don't know what that looks like yet. Weekends, dinners, art lessons, whatever you're comfortable with. But I can't walk away. Not now that I know. Even if it's hard. Especially if it's hard. She studied his face for a long moment. Okay. Here's what I'm willing to do. You can come to Millbrook on Wednesday evenings. I'll tell Jonah you're a friend who wants to learn about art. We'll paint together, the 3 of us. You can get to know him in a low-pressure environment. When do we tell him the truth? I don't know. Not yet. He's 9, Carter. This is going to be huge for him. We need to be careful. Okay. Wednesday evenings. I can do that. And you need to understand, if this becomes a problem, if he's struggling, we stop. His well-being is the only thing that matters. Agreed. She finally took a sip of her tea. He's going to love having you around. He's been asking about his father more lately. I think part of him has been waiting for this. Carter's throat went tight. Has he been okay? Without a father, I mean. He's been loved. By me, by my mother, by a whole community of people who care about him. But yeah, there's been something missing. I see it in his paintings sometimes. These incomplete images, shadows where a figure should be. She smiled sadly. He calls it the Missing Piece series. Can I see them? Wednesday. You can see everything on Wednesday. The first Wednesday, Carter showed up with expensive art supplies and nervous energy. Jonah opened the door with paint already on his face. Hi. Mom said you were coming. Do you know how to do watercolor layering? Because I've been trying this technique I saw online, but it keeps getting muddy, and I think it's because I'm not letting the layers dry enough, but also maybe I'm using too much water? It's very frustrating. Breathe, kiddo, Maya said, appearing behind him. Let the man come inside first. Carter stepped into their small apartment above the bakery. It was nothing like his penthouse in the city. The furniture was mismatched, the walls were covered in Jonah's artwork, there was a pile of laundry on the couch, but it felt like a home in a way his place never had. I brought supplies, he said, holding up the bag. I didn't know what you already had, so I might have gone overboard. Jonah's eyes went huge. Is that the Winsor & Newton professional set? And Arch's paper? Mom, he brought Arch's paper. I see that, baby. This is the fancy stuff. The really fancy stuff. Jonah looked at Carter with something approaching worship. Can we use it? Please, please, please. That's why I brought it. The next 2 hours were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Jonah demonstrated his layering technique, which was genuinely sophisticated for a 9-year-old. Carter shared some tricks he'd learned from an artist he'd dated briefly in his 20s. Maya corrected both their brush techniques and made them wash out their palettes properly. They painted dragons together, Jonah's breathing light, Carter's attempting to and mostly failing, Maya somehow both fierce and gentle at once. Yours looks angry, Jonah told Carter. Like he's protective but also maybe a little scared? That's surprisingly accurate. Art tells the truth. Even when we don't mean it to. Jonah said it with such casual wisdom that Carter had to look away before the kid saw how much it affected him. When it was time to go, Jonah hugged him goodbye. Will you come back next Wednesday? He asked. If your mom says it's okay. Mom? Can he? Maya looked at Carter over Jonah's head. Something had softened in her expression over the past 2 hours. Yeah, she said. He can come back. It became a routine. Wednesday evenings, 6 to 8:30, art lessons and terrible jokes and slowly, carefully, becoming something like a family. Carter learned that Jonah hated mushrooms but loved broccoli, could recite entire scenes from animated movies, and had a laugh that sounded like sunshine. He learned that Maya still took photos but mostly for local events now, that her mother was in remission but had good days and bad days, that she drank her tea with honey and fell asleep on the couch most nights with a sketchbook on her chest. He learned that being a parent wasn't a role you put on. It was something you built, minute by minute, in the small moments between big ones. And he fell in love. With Jonah's weird dragon facts and paint-stained fingers. With Maya's fierce protectiveness and the way she hummed while she worked. With the life they'd built without him and were slowly, tentatively, allowing him into. It was good. Until the lawyers got involved. Carter's attorney called on a Thursday. "I heard an interesting rumor," Marcus said. "Something about you having a previously undisclosed child?" "Where did you hear that?" "Doesn't matter. Is it true?" Carter closed his eyes. "Yes." "And the mother is?" "Not interested in my money. We have an arrangement that's working." "Carter, you need legal documentation. Paternity test, custody agreement, child support." "No." "Excuse me. We're handling it privately. I'm not bringing lawyers into this." "That's incredibly naive. What if she decides to sue for back child support? What if she tries to claim you abandoned the child? What if?" "She won't. You can't know that. You need to protect yourself." "I need to protect my son. And bringing lawyers into this will traumatize him. So no. We're doing this our way." He hung up. Marcus called back 5 minutes later. "I've already filed preliminary paperwork for a paternity test and custody evaluation." Carter's blood went cold. "You did what?" "I'm protecting your interests. If this goes sideways, you need documentation that you attempted to." "Withdraw it. Now." "Carter, withdraw it or you're fired." But it was too late. Maya received the notice on Friday. She called him at midnight, and she was crying so hard she could barely speak. "How could you? How could you?" "Maya, I didn't. My lawyer did this without my permission. I'm fixing it." "You're taking me to court?" "For custody." "No. I fired him. I'm withdrawing everything." "You want to take my son from me?" "I want to be with my son." "There's a difference." "Not to a judge there isn't. Carter, I've built my entire life around keeping him safe and happy, and now there's a court date with my name on it. I'm fixing it. I promise. I'll have it withdrawn tomorrow." "You think that makes it better? You think that erases the fact that you tried to?" "I didn't try anything. My lawyer is an overstepping asshole who made a decision without consulting me." She was quiet for a moment, just breathing hard on the other end of the line. "Jonah asked me tonight why I was crying," she said finally. "He painted a picture of a dragon with torn wings. He titled it, 'Broken Protection.' Do you understand what you've done?" The line went dead. Carter spent the weekend trying to reach her. Every call went to voicemail. Every text went unanswered. On Monday, he drove to Millbrook. Maya wouldn't open the door. "Go away, Carter. Please. Let me explain." "You've explained enough. Your lawyer filed paperwork to take my son. That's all the explanation I need. It's been withdrawn. I have documentation." The door opened. Maya looked like she hadn't slept in days. "It doesn't matter if it's withdrawn. It exists. In a file somewhere, there's documentation that says you think I'm an unfit mother who needs court supervision. Do you have any idea what that does to me?" "You're not unfit. You're an amazing mother." "Then why did your lawyer think he needed to protect Jonah from me?" "He was trying to protect me. And he was wrong. Maya, please. I think you should stop coming to Wednesday sessions." His heart stopped. "What?" "Jonah is confused and I'm exhausted, and this is exactly what I was afraid of. You're complicating his life. I'm trying to be part of his life." "By threatening to take him from me?" "I never threatened that. Your lawyer did it for you. Same result." "Maya, I need you to leave, Carter. I need you to go back to the city and let us go back to our normal life. You can't just cut me out. He's my son. He's my son. You're just someone who showed up with expensive art supplies and good intentions. He'll forget about you in a month. The words hit like bullets. You don't mean that. Go home, Carter. She closed the door. He stood on the other side for 10 minutes, waiting for her to change her mind, to open it, to give him another chance. She didn't. Jonah's art teacher called Maya on a Tuesday. I'm worried about Jonah. His recent work is troubling. Maya drove to the school, her stomach in knots. Mrs. Patterson showed her a series of paintings Jonah had done over the past week. Dragons with broken wings. Bridges collapsing. Families torn apart. Figures on opposite sides of chasms. And one that made Maya's breath catch, a small figure standing between two larger figures, being pulled in both directions, face obscured by shadow. He won't talk about it, Mrs. Patterson said gently. But clearly something is upsetting him. Has there been a change at home? Maya looked at the painting of the torn family and felt guilt settle in her chest like stones. There was someone. A friend who was visiting. It didn't work out. Was Jonah attached to this person? Yes. I see. Mrs. Patterson touched the painting gently. Children process loss through art. It's healthy, actually. But I think he might benefit from talking to someone. The school has a counselor. I'll handle it. Thank you. At home, Maya found Jonah in his room, working on another painting. This one showed a dragon trying to build a bridge, but the pieces wouldn't fit together. Baby, we need to talk. About Carter? Her heart clenched. What about Carter? Is he coming back? I don't know, sweetheart. Why not? How did she explain adult complications to a 9-year-old? How did she say because I'm scared and angry and I don't know how to protect you from getting hurt? It's complicated, Jonah. That's what adults always say when they don't want to tell the truth. Jonah. I liked him, Mom. He was nice. He understood my art. He asked good questions. Jonah's voice got small. I thought maybe he could be, I don't know, something. Something like what? Like family. Maya sat down on his bed, pulled him close. Oh, baby. Is it my fault he stopped coming? No. God, no. Jonah, this has nothing to do with you. This is about grown-up stuff that went wrong. Can't you fix it? I don't know if I can. My dragons always fix things. They breathe light and make things better. Can't you do that? Real life is harder than dragons, sweetheart. He pulled away from her, grabbed a fresh canvas. Then I'll paint it. I'll paint what it should look like, and maybe that'll help. He worked for 2 days straight, barely eating, completely absorbed. When he finally showed her the finished piece, Maya started crying. The painting showed a bridge. In the center, a small keystone held the entire structure together, a tiny piece painted in bright, defiant gold. On either side, 2 larger stones supported it, connected to the keystone but also leaning on each other. The bridge arched over a chasm, but it was whole. It was strong. At the bottom, in Jonah's careful handwriting, keystone. A bridge only works when all the pieces choose to hold each other up. Jonah, it's us. The keystone is me. The other pieces are you and Carter. We're supposed to be a bridge, but we only work if everyone chooses to stay. He looked at her with eyes too old for 9. Are you choosing to stay, Mom? She couldn't speak. Because I think Carter wants to stay. And I know you want to stay. But you're both scared, so the bridge can't work. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You're just noticing now because it's inconvenient. She laughed through tears. What do you want me to do, baby? Talk to him. For real. Like how you tell me to use my words instead of getting mad. It's not that simple. Yes, it is. You're just making it complicated because you're scared. Out of the mouths of babes. Maya called Carter that night. I'm sorry, she said as soon as he picked up. I'm sorry for shutting you out, and I'm sorry for assuming the worst, and I'm sorry for... You don't need to apologize. Yes, I do. Jonah painted something. I'm going to send you a photo. She sent the image of Keystone. Carter was quiet for a long time. He's right, he said finally. We're the ones breaking the bridge. Not him. I'm scared, Carter. So am I. I don't know how to do this. How to share him. How to trust that you won't leave when it gets hard. I'm not leaving. I can't promise I won't make mistakes, but I can promise I'm not leaving. Even if it costs you your reputation, your business, your... There's nothing worth more than this. Than him. Than the chance to be his father. She wiped her eyes. Okay. 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 We try again. But this time, we do it right. We tell him the truth. All of it. When? This weekend. Together. We sit him down and we tell him together. Okay, Carter said. Okay. Together. They told him on a Saturday morning, in the small apartment that smelled like cinnamon from the bakery below. Jonah sat on the couch between them, looking back and forth with serious eyes. So you're saying Carter is my dad? Like, my actual biological father? Yes, Maya said. And you didn't tell me because... Because I was scared, she admitted. And I thought I was protecting you. From what? From being hurt. From being disappointed. From having someone leave you. Jonah processed this. But he hasn't left. No. He hasn't. Jonah turned to Carter. Did you know about me? No. I didn't know until the art show. If I'd known earlier, I would have been here. I promise. Do you want to be here now? More than anything. Even though I'm weird and I talk about dragons all the time and I organize my art supplies by frequency of use? Especially because of all that. Jonah nodded slowly. Okay. Cool. Can I call you Dad? Carter's eyes filled with tears. I would really, really like that. Awesome. So are we like a family now? Maya and Carter looked at each other. We're figuring it out, Maya said. But yes, we're a family. Does this mean we can get a dog? Don't push your luck, kid. Jonah grinned, that crooked smile that was pure Carter, and launched himself at both of them, wrapping his arms around their necks. This is the best day ever, he said into their shoulders. I'm going to paint something huge about this. And he did. The transition wasn't perfect. There were arguments about schedules and boundaries and how to handle discipline. There were nights when Jonah cried because he was overwhelmed by the changes. There were moments when Maya and Carter snapped at each other out of exhaustion and old hurts. But they kept showing up. Carter came to every soccer game, even the ones where Jonah spent the entire time on the bench making grass sculptures. Maya invited him to family dinners with her mother, who grilled him mercilessly and then decided she liked him. Jonah painted a new series called Building Bridges that showed dragons working together to create impossible structures. They built rituals. Saturday morning pancakes at Maya's apartment. Carter was terrible at cooking, consistently burning everything, but Jonah found it hilarious and kept a running tally on the fridge. Dad, 0, pancakes, 47. Wednesday evening painting sessions, now with all three of them working on collaborative pieces. Sunday walks to the river, where they'd feed ducks and Jonah would narrate elaborate backstories for each bird. Slowly, carefully, they became what they were always supposed to be, a family. Carter and Maya navigated the complexity of co-parenting while also navigating something else, the tentative, terrifying possibility of being more than just Jonah's parents. It started small. Hands brushing while washing paintbrushes. Maya falling asleep on his shoulder during Jonah's school play. Carter bringing her favorite tea without being asked. One night, after Jonah was asleep, they sat on Maya's tiny balcony overlooking the quiet street. I'm sorry, Carter said. For all of it. For the hotel, for the bargain, for missing 9 years. Stop. Maya put her hand over his. I'm sorry too. For disappearing. For keeping him from you. For assuming you'd reject us. I need you to know, that night wasn't just a transaction for me. Even then, there was something about you. Something real. Carter. I know this is complicated. I know we're doing everything backward. But Maya, he stopped, gathered courage. I think I'm falling in love with you. Again. Or maybe still. I don't know. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. That's terrifying. I know. Jonah has to come first. I know that too. If this doesn't work, if we try and it falls apart, he's the one who'll be hurt. So we don't let it fall apart. We work at it. Every day. Like we're working at being parents. She kissed him then, soft and careful, tasting like hope and second chances. Okay, she whispered against his lips. Okay. Let's try. They dated like awkward teenagers, stealing kisses when Jonah wasn't looking, holding hands under the dinner table. Jonah caught them once and made exaggerated gagging noises. Gross. You're old people. You're not supposed to kiss. I'm telling your teacher you said that, Maya threatened. I'm telling everyone. But he was grinning, and that night he painted a dragon with wings that looked suspiciously like they were forming a heart shape. A year after the art show that changed everything, Jonah had his first solo exhibition. The community center gallery was packed. Every painting from his Building Bridges series hung on the walls, showing the journey from broken structures to impossible beauty. The centerpiece was Keystone, the painting that had started it all. Carter stood in front of it with Maya tucked under his arm and felt something settle in his chest that had been restless for years. He's extraordinary, someone said beside him. Carter turned to find an art critic from the city paper, making notes. He is, Carter agreed. And you're the father? I am. Must be proud. More than I have words for. The critic smiled. There's a lot of love in these paintings. You can tell he feels safe. Supported. That's rare. When everyone had left and it was just the three of them taking down the pieces, Jonah yawned hugely. Tired, buddy? Carter asked. So tired. But happy tired. Good tired. I know that kind of tired. Hey, Dad. Yeah. Thanks for showing up. Like, I know it's been hard and weird and Mom says you had to quit some important job stuff to be here more and I just... Thanks. Carter crouched down to his level. Jonah, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, more important than being here with you. Okay. Okay. Love you. Love you too, kiddo. Maya watched them with soft eyes, and later, when Jonah was asleep in the back seat of Carter's car and they were driving through the quiet night, she said, You're really good at this. At what? Being a dad. Being present. Choosing us. It's the easiest choice I've ever made. She laced her fingers through his free hand. I love you, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Probably have for a while. I was just too scared to say it. I love you too. Both of you. This whole messy, beautiful thing we're building. It is messy. Best things usually are. Okay, before I finish this story, I need you to do something for me. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that second chances are real, that families come in all shapes, that love is built in small moments of choosing each other, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. This is Dr. Mason Long Stories, and this is what we do here. Real stories, real heart, real lessons. Drop a comment telling me which part hit you hardest. Was it Jonah's wisdom? Maya's courage? Carter's redemption? And share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to make things right. Never too late to show up. Never too late to build something beautiful from broken pieces. Now let's bring this home. 5 years later. Jonah, at 14, was apprenticing with a local muralist. His dragons had evolved. They were more complex now, showing vulnerability alongside strength, shadow alongside light. Maya's photography business had grown. She'd published a book of portraits called Light Keepers, people from Millbrook who'd overcome impossible things. It sold out in 3 weeks. Carter had started a foundation supporting young artists from low-income families. He called it the Keystone Foundation, and Jonah designed the logo, a dragon breathing light over a bridge. They live together now, in a bigger house just outside Millbrook with a studio for Maya, an office for Carter, and an absolutely massive art room for Jonah. The moon pendant, the one Maya had kept hidden for years, sat in a small shadow box in the living room. Not a secret anymore, but a reminder. Sometimes a single night changes everything. Maya's mother, healthy and vibrant, visited weekly and had taken up painting herself. "I'm terrible at it," she'd say cheerfully, "but Jonah says art is about courage, not skill, so here we are." On late nights, when the house was quiet and Jonah was asleep under the mobile of painted dragons he'd made himself, Carter and Maya would stand in his doorway and just watch him breathe. "We did good," Maya would whisper. "We did so good," Carter would agree. They had learned what Jonah had tried to teach them from the beginning. That protection isn't about keeping people in darkness, it's about breathing light into their lives. That bridges only work when every piece chooses to hold the others up. That families aren't always the ones you're born into. Sometimes they're the ones you build with courage and patience and the willingness to try again. That second chances aren't given, they're made, minute by minute, in the small acts of showing up. That the most powerful thing you can do is choose love over fear, even when fear feels safer. That pride is expensive, but love is worth every cost. Jonah understood this instinctively. He painted it into every dragon, every bridge, every beam of light. And on the nights when he stirred in his sleep and murmured about dragons sewing bridges, when he reached for both their hands in unconscious trust, Maya and Carter understood it too. The light they needed didn't come from grand gestures or perfect decisions. It came from showing up for burnt pancakes and bad puns. It came from sitting with hard conversations instead of running. It came from letting a 9-year-old teach you that holding each other up is how you build something that lasts. Jonah had been right all along. Dragons don't need to breathe fire. Fire destroys. Light protects. And the most powerful light isn't the kind that's given. It's the kind you make together, even in the dark, especially in the dark, when you choose courage over comfort and love over pride and presence over perfection. They made light. Every single day, in 1,000 small ways, they made light. And it was more than enough. So there it is. A one-night stand, a decade of secrets, a 9-year-old artist who taught 2 adults how to be brave enough to try. If this story moved you, if you're sitting there with tears in your eyes or a smile on your face or both, here's what I need you to do. First, hit that like button. Share it. This story needs to reach people who need to hear it. Second, drop a comment. Tell me what lesson hit you hardest. Tell me your own story if you want. This is a safe space. We're all just people trying to figure out how to love better. Third, subscribe to Dr. Mason Long Stories if you haven't already. Every 2 days, I bring you stories like this. Stories with heart, with truth, with lessons that remind you why being human is both the hardest and most beautiful thing we'll ever do. And finally, share this. Send it to someone who's struggling with second chances, or blended families, or the fear of trying again. Send it to someone who needs to know that it's never too late to show up. Never too late to choose love. Never too late to start building bridges. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing that stories matter and that love wins and that even our messiest moments can become our most beautiful ones. I'm Dr. Mason, and I'll see you in the next story. Until then, remember, breathe light, not fire. Build bridges, not walls. And show up, even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary. That's when it matters most.